Hey guys, welcome back to part number 3 of my setup and modules tour. So the first two parts were only the first row with some very long explanations partially, but I think it's important to get a feeling what especially the more complicated or complex modules like the Black Octa source do. The possibilities of Griffin's Claw, the Euclidean, LFO mod Medusa, water plasma drive, drums, and perhaps one information additionally, which I forgot. I have a couple of DIY modules. You can buy them already in a complete state or partially as a kit. You have to solder and put them together by yourself, which is often cheaper. And one of the DIY modules is DivSkip from DivKit, or making sound machines. And additionally, Shakmat Battering Ram and Shakmat Archer's Rig are also available as DIY kits. And Shakmat has a couple of modules you can build by yourself if you are able to. And they are not so complicated. Often you see the grade if it's beginner friendly or if you need to be an expert. So I think the biggest module I've built is the Befaco Stmix, which has 300 whatever parts and often ICs with 8 legs or more. So I would roughly estimate they are more than 1000 to 1500 soldering points, and this was the biggest project I've built and it took me a while. Like these Shakmat modules are simple because the SMD parts, the very small parts, are pre-soldered and you have just a couple of jacks and potentiometers and so on. So this was okay. Additionally, the Erica Synth baseline here is the DIY version. There are two versions, and these differs if you buy the complete module or the DIY, because this is bigger, it has more HP. And additionally, this here, the drive, I think in the other version it's not drive, it's detune, as far as I know, which means this is one module where the DIY version differs from the official store versions. But just as a tip, if you can solder or you want to try, you can save money if you do that. Okay, plan for today is this small row here. And then if there's enough time, I think this should be a bit faster than the others. I would additionally do the Sadar and the Maestro, which is a bit more complex, but then I have the modulation sources I have in the case complete. And I think this is important because I have modulation here. These ones you've already seen if you watch the other parts. Then I have one here, which is in this position more as an envelope for other things. And here, this one is, yeah, it's here because there was the only place. Normally from the topic, if you try to structure your case, you should think of clusters, which makes somehow sense. So, and then you try to plan it in a modular grid, and you realize that your plan will not work normally, because then you have some kind of, like here my plasma drive, which can be only here, as I mentioned in the other part, because of the deepness of the module. And my plan was roughly to here have the clock and triggers for the drums. So this here is the core or the heart in regards of BPM and triggers for drums. Then, as I said, the distortion is not correct here, but yeah, was the only possibility. This here is modulation. The water, mainly for the drums. I use it, Mod Medusa, Griffin's Claw, attenuation or modulation, or attenuation of the modulation. The LFO envelope thing here, contour, and the octa source. Then the Sada here, as I said in Maestro. So this is not what it should be normally, but it was the only possibility. Here is my oscillator part. There's the Erica Sense baseline, the Black Wavetable VCO, and one Alia from Noise Engineering. Here are the filters and low-pass gates, envelope VCAs, and Sada for this envelope here. Here I have an attenuator, attenuverter, inverter, whatever, for this modulation, for other things. Here's a bit of utility. Then I have this space here reserved for modules I want to try out. In this case, the Chaos device Odessa with the expander, or as I said in the last video, Sophia, the other oscillator, will be here. Then this is kind of end of chain. Here's one morphing equalizer, the scalpel. And this is the effect part, which additionally one equalizer here, the Golden Master from Endorphins. I have to admit that I do not really use equalizers like I should, because sometimes you should, that it's you have clear separation of some voices. If you do not equalize them, sometimes at the end you cannot differentiate the different voices and sounds. It's like a mutt a bit. Okay, this is Milky Way, which is in effect. Oh, sorry. This is from Endorphins. This is a Milky Way, an effects unit, the FX8 effects unit, Mimeophone effects unit, and Ghost, which is a mixture of effect, filter, end of chain, whatever. But I will go deeper into details when I come to them, just so that you have a rough understanding what the plan was. Clocking drums, modulation, VCOs, oscillators, filters, low-pass gates, envelope VCA, room for testing, and effects and end-of-chain things. This was the rough plan. Everything is going into the 1010 Music Blue Box, which is a cool mixer. It has 6 input stereo, or you can split them, and then you have 12 up to 12 mono channels. It's really small. You see my hand. It's transportable. You can record directly on a SD card, which is in here. It has a built-in effect, reverb, and delay, which are really good. It has equalizers for every channel, and you can use effects separate for every channel, and you can record the master channel and every single channel you have. You can switch up to 12 tracks here. I don't need so much at the moment, but I do another video about that if you are interested. But this is a cool thing. It's small, it's transportable, it can record, and has built-in effects. So this was one of my first, well, my first and last mixer, because I wanted to have a small one. So yeah, it has a touchscreen, so you can use touch and oops. Yeah, when it's running later on, we can see better. Okay, so we have roughly 10 minutes, and I did not do anything I wanted, so 10 minutes intro. but yeah, it is like it is. I have no concept. I just do what I think. And if you're interested, watch it, listen to it. If not, jump forward or watch another video if you want about happy cats or whatever you like. Okay, back to work. Sorry, I'm not 100% healthy like yesterday where I did the second part. Okay, this here is the 1U row. So for everybody who is in Eurorack already knows, hopefully, that these Eurorack models here are 3U size. And IntelliGel, for example, have cases with 1U, and they have 1U modules, which is cool. I have one 1U row here and one there. There you can put in additional modules, and you don't have to have a very big case. These are really small modules and like utilities like the mults and the switches. This is really good thing in my opinion. Okay, so from the left, this is Befaco stereo mix. This was a DIY also, so it's quite simple. It's fast to explain. You have 4 stereo ins and you have 1 stereo out, and then you can mix the 4 different inputs, and that's it. So it's a stereo mixer. What's cool, it's also, when you see here, it states left channel is mono. So if you put in one VCO, which is mono and not stereo, in here, you will have a stereo signal at the output. So at the end, you will always have a stereo output. So you can mix mono and stereo sources here. That's it. Then the next one is the Afterlater Audio Allen, which is a Turing machine. Perhaps you know what a Turing machine is. This is the 1U version, and it's quite simple. I try to show. You need to clock it. We just give it a clock from PAMS, 90 BPM. Hopefully you see it. And then, okay, let's put in one. So you have different outs. You have a pulse out. This is this one. And you have a noise out here, which does nothing right now. Okay, I'm not sure why, but I haven't used it. Okay, and you have an out. Okay, and what you see here, so there are a lot of videos about Turing machines. I try to not to go too deep into details because it makes no sense. There are a couple of much better videos than I can produce, but at the end you have loop lengths here, like 4 steps. And when you now watch carefully, the machine generates pulses here and a CV value. It's not quantized. So you can use it for modulation, or when you have a quantizer which brings your CV voltage into the scale, like major, minor, Dorian, whatever. You can use it to create music or patterns. And it will stay when this this knob here is turned absolutely to the is it clockwise? Yeah, clockwise. It will not change, which means this pattern will be the same. Will not change. You can change the scale here, which means just how the CV changes. The upper line, you see, now I put it to the max. then the voltage it generates differs more than when I reduce it. You see it's the same pattern, but the voltage change is much slighter. So if you would use that with a quantizer to create notes with this lower setting, you would stay within a couple of semitones. When you turn it up, it would have notes over different octaves, for example. So now, as I said, the length is 4, and we have always 3 bits on and 1 off. And if I put this button down here, I can switch off bytes or bits. It's here on the right is the one I affect when I do something. So when I press it down, you see everything is clear. We don't have triggers anymore. We don't have nothing. So as soon as I press it up one time, it should, okay, it was too long. So I created 2 triggers and CV, but it will repeat these 4 steps in the which I defined in the length forever and ever, unless I just erase everything and then I change this change here. I think when you turn it in the direction of 12 o'clock, it will introduce changes. I speed up the clock here. I think it's easier to see. So it should, okay, now it introduced changes. You see it, it creates now triggers. And you have your CV pattern, which stays the same. As soon as I change this here, you see you will have changes here. Okay, this can be used for modulation or for notes when you use a quantizer, or if you do not need to have notes within a scale, you can use it, and you can change the length of this pattern you create. And when you have your pattern which you like, you can lock it when you turn this clockwise. And if you want to introduce slight changes over time, you just turn it a bit. When you want to have bigger changes, turn it to 12. So, but it's very theoretical. It's easier if you have a voice connected, and there are a lot of videos. So if you're interested, watch these. There you can learn how it works. Okay, for me here it's okay. You have the possibility to expand these. There are expanders for CV and triggers. I'm not sure how they are called here, but the Turing machine, just have a look if you want. This is the 1U version from Afterlater Audio. So then, this module is really cool. It's a switch, XY switch, which means you have these 6, and it's passive, you don't need power for it. It's 6 jacks, and you can, with the switch here, which is a 3-position switch, up, middle and down, you can connect different ones. So if you turn this to the here or push it up and this up, then these are connected. So I show you for what you can use it. Just putting the oscilloscope to here. So then let's take one. Sorry when the camera is not showing not where I look at, because when I just look here I don't look at the camera. Okay, now we have one LFO, you already know, in here, in the second one, and we have these two in the oscilloscope. So I put this down and now it's connected to Y, and now when I activate this switch to Y, you see I have the signal from here to there. When I activate the other one, I have both here. So this is the most simple way to use it, because you can use it as a switch or a, what's in English? I have no plan when you switch from one to the other. But you know what I mean. So I used it in a patch a couple days or so ago to have different bass lines, for example. So if you have different CV sources for notes or whatever, you can put these in and then you can switch. Or you can, when you have two voices, you can change the sequence from one to the other VCO and backwards and so on. So this is good for just routing CV or audio, or switch it off or switch it on. But you can also do other stuff. And this is what Modular is all about, creating interesting things. So I take from the contour one, which I set to loop mode, put it in here, second one, and put it up to X. And now let's see, I put one up here, and then you see the upper one is the contour, the lower one is the octa source. Now I can switch it if I want, one up, one down. Now it changed. So you can change from different sources to destinations with that. And what you can do additionally, whereas there's a little risk to kill something, hopefully not, but not sure what happens. But I can use this jack and connect it here to, let's say, phase. And this was in the second video about this module. You can have influence on the phase, which means right now we have just our normal waveforms. And now when I activate this switch to X, to the same as the looping envelope outgoing, you see that now this envelope here, when I connect it here, when I switch it off, it's just a sine wave on this black octa source up there. When I put it down, then it modifies itself. It's interesting what comes out. So it's self-patched with itself. When I put it to up, the contour signal is going out there, is going there into the phase input, and you see that octa source flips out and does things. When I change it here, can do it faster. Then you see you can put it up to audio rates. So this is a little tool, but it's really cool and can do more than you might think at the first glance, because I also thought, okay, you can switch things off and on, or you can connect things, but with that you can do really crazy stuff. And what's good in this module, additionally, I have the same here in silver, it's the same. And when you have them side by side or near each other, you can connect them. And then you don't have only 6 jacks, you can have 12 or more. And then you can do more crazy stuff. Additionally, you can just use it as a mute because this is up, is everything with the button, the switch up is connected to X, switch down, everything connected, or every switch down is connected to Y, and in the middle is just off. So you can also just simply use it as a mute, so which means, okay, sound on, sound off, modulation on, modulation off, or switching or whatever. So it's a small utility, but you can achieve cool results with it if you just try out things. You just have to be careful a bit because I'm not sure what happens when you connect out from different modules. So I'm always very careful. So I use different colors for ins and outs. And normally I start here with the ins and with the outs to the right. And I know I have only 2 out from modules which go in here. And they are the first 2 because I'm not sure what happens if I connect multiple outs. So if I would put both of them up and this is an oscillator and that, I'm not sure what happens then because doesn't sound healthy. Haven't tried it, but so be careful. It's a cool module, but I hope your modules are protected when you do such stuff and are not careful. Okay, next module is quite simple. It's a mult from IntelliJail, and here I love the 1U form factor. It's 2 ins, 8 outs, and normalization. So when I put a clock in here, and this is what I use it for mainly, and then it's in every jack here you have the same clock. It normalizes to that, so here is the same clock. But what I can do is just take now, sorry, just a second, one faster clock from here, put it in there. You see the second one is faster, and when I connect one here in the first row, it's the slower clock, and the second is the faster. Additionally, you can mult CV, and I'm not sure if you are aware, but you have active and passive mults. Passive are just the jacks which are connected, and if you use CV for a voice which tracks with 1 volt per octave, then it's when you have a small drop in voltage of 0.1 volts or whatever, you don't hit the correct note anymore in your scale. And so it can be that when you mult CV signals, which are very sensitive to voltage changes, like notes for oscillators, you should use an active mult because here you need power for that. But it ensures that the incoming voltage is exact the same than the outgoing, even if you put 4 in here. When you use a passive mult, it could be that you have incoming volt of 1.0 volt and outgoing is 0.99 or whatever, because you distribute it to different other modules. So there's the difference, just that you heard that if you did not know. Active versus passive mults. I normally use mainly active mults because then I don't have to take care. They're a bit more expensive, and I think I have one small passive mult I use for triggers sometimes, but yeah. And mults are good and important. Okay, then the last module in that row. Oh, we are 30 minutes. So yeah. Okay, I think I will stop after that module because this will take a bit more time, not too much, but a bit. Okay, let's see. Let's put it in here. So this is the PIQUE, which is a multi-module. I don't have so many multi-modules because I'm no fan of them. I tried to love the small modules with a lot of functionality in, like the Expert Sleepers MK4 or the how is it called? I just don't know. With the hemisphere firmware, it's sorry, old brain and not a bit sick. But you know what I mean. The modules where you have a display and millions of algorithms and whatever on it is cool at the beginning. I bought them because I did not have so much space, and I did not buy bigger modules. I liked more smaller ones which can do a lot because of the limited space. But I realized that for me personally, I don't like these modules. You have menu diving, you have a screen, you have to know where is what and so on. I like what you see is what you get. Like even here with the Odessa, which is a really complex thing, and it's a digital module, but you don't have a display, you don't have menus, you have a knob for everything. And I don't have to, from I think the oscillator could be much smaller if you would have put everything in some menus or whatever, but this is not what I personally want to work with, because as I often said and wrote, modular itself for me is the being away from a computer, because I'm working on the computer many hours a day, Monday to Friday. And additionally, you have your screen on your smartphone and whatever. And modular, this is why I record directly with the camera and have only this box here, because I just don't want to have or use a computer. And so I like the knobs and faders and touch things. So, sorry, additionally 3 minutes for just philosophical discussions, but I think it's important to understand why I do things like I do them. And sometimes it's a bit easier when somebody explains you why. And it's not meant that this is good for everybody or that's the right way in modular. And this is what I love. You don't have right or wrong or whatever. You have to find your way, what's good for yourself, what you are comfortable with what you can, how much you can spend on your budget, because this is a really expensive hobby. And I'm just about calculating from the modules I've bought. I started to create a list with every module, where I bought it, and the official price and the price I paid inclusive with shipping, just to get a feeling. And as I already said, hopefully, I try to get every module in a used state when possible. Sometimes you don't have the possibility, you have to buy it new. But I roughly think, I'm not finished yet, but I would say you can save up roughly 20% from the in average of all my modules, and there are many. I have modules you cannot save anything because they are seldom, or others which are everybody has it and says it's someone, then you can save up 40-50%. But I would think roughly plus minus, you can save up to roughly 20%. when you buy modules in a used state. If you're lucky, more. If you're not so lucky, less. Okay, so enough philosophy now. What I just wanted to say, and you see I'm no professional in being short on the point here. This module PEAQUE is a multi-module, which means, I'm not sure if you can see it here, it has an envelope, LFO, tab, which is some kind of clock, I think, and drum. You have a drum in it, but haven't used it. So, and here you have a split mode, which means when you use an envelope, an LFO, you have two with 2 controls, or when you disable the split, you have 1 with 4 controls. So in the envelope, which I use, and split mode on, we have 2 envelopes here, and shout out to the producer of this module, it has trigger buttons here. Hope you see it. You can trigger it manually, and you don't need a trigger gate from another module, which is cool, especially for now. Okay, now you see when I trigger it, this is number 2 here. I trigger an envelope, you can change the decay to a longer one. So, okay, I will do number 1, a real plucky one. Number 2, a longer one. And you can re-trigger it, which means when it's in decay, because it has only attack and decay. It's an AD envelope in this. And I can trigger it, you see it on the green. While it's in decay, I can trigger it. So I really love this module. It's small and it has 2 envelopes. AD envelopes are for me mainly okay because I just trigger. I don't have longer or smaller gates normally, sometimes, but mainly not. So what you can do when we switch off split, we have only 1 envelope, but now it's an ADSR envelope, which means attack, decay, sustain, and release. And we can switch that as you see when number 1. The upper one, you see when I trigger it, it rises the attack, then falls off, and when I release it, it's the release. So the small spike, I change it a bit. Okay, I triggered. So the small spike at the beginning is the attack. Then I hold it. It's the sustain and release. Okay, and this is my main usage of these. Then when you switch to the second part, it's an LFO. Oh, I changed something. I have no clue what. Okay. Okay. Somehow. Okay. Again. I don't know this module enough, but I haven't seen this before, so I switch it just off. Sorry. Okay, it's in the same state. I have no idea why. I somehow changed configuration and have no idea why. Okay, sorry. I think I will have a look and continue the next part. So I think you've seen the envelope part, but Additionally, you have an LFO or two LFOs you can use. You have tap for gate triggers. And then you have drum. You can have a drum sound or two drum sounds in this. But I, to be honest, have never used it. I have never used the tap mode. I have never used the LFO mode because I have much better or more complex LFOs I use. I only used it for an envelope. And this was finished. You've seen it. This is a good idea. And this is exactly, you could assume I did it not by accident, because I wanted to show you that why I don't like these menu diving modules, but this is exactly the case. For me, perhaps I'm just a stupid guy, but it makes no sense in this case, because when I press something, I can configure something, and perhaps it makes sense, and perhaps it's cool, and perhaps it's non plus ultra super special mode bomber whatever, but no plan what I have here now. And for me, as a stupid end user which just want to turn knobs and do stuff, I cannot use this module at the moment. And this is worst case when you do a jam or when you do live things, when you do not know your modules in detail, because then when this happens here, and you've seen, even if I switch off the case and just wait, the state is preserved somehow, which is a good thing normally, but for me, now I have to search for the manual and to see how I can reset that, or what it is, or how I change it, or what I have to do. No idea. Absolutely no idea. Okay, everything's blinking. Okay, perhaps you're laughing. Then I reached my goal, because it should be fun to do this stuff here for me also. When I do my videos here, it would be not good if I just would approach it as a teacher somehow, or to think that I know what I do and can explain everything to everybody. No, I'm just someone who tries out things and learn by doing things and experiments. And so perhaps this is good that it happened, because now you can understand why I personally, and this does not mean that modules are bad or whatever. Everything is okay as soon as you want to use it and you're comfortable with it, like the Sleepers MK4. It's, I think, this form factor here, and you have 80 algorithms on it or whatever. I'm not sure how many, a lot of things. And this is cool because from a cost perspective, from a space perspective, it's perfect. You don't need much space. You have a lot of things in it, like LFOs, quantizers, effects, envelopes, whatever. But you have to know how it works. You have to menu dive, whatever. Just for me personally, this is not what I like. And this is a good, and I love this module, don't get me wrong. This is a really cool module, especially with the form factor, and I like the envelopes and that it has triggers. I said before, this is so cool when you just want to try out things, like here with the Sync Burkina, you have a trigger. Here I don't have one. So this is a cool low pass gate, one of the best, but when I want to try it out, I need to connect something that I can fire it. Or perhaps there's a chance I haven't found, but this is not cool. This is cool. Here, I press the button. Here, I press the button. Here, I press the button. Okay? You know what I mean? Okay, before I start hating things, it's not about hating things or modules or producers or companies. It's about showing what works out for me and what I like and what is a benefit from my point of view. And for me, one thing is you should have modules which you understand and which you like working with, but because only then you try out stuff